welcome to Arts Dynamics Talks. We are your sparring partner for all things creative business growth with digital innovation for impact. I'm Sofie Marin and I'm the founder of Arts Dynamics, and I'm really happy and excited to yet again be back with another talk where I will be speaking with someone who's at the very forefront of creativity in tech and business for impact. So without further ado, let me introduce to you a dear new friend, a relatively new friend. We actually met on a panel last year at the Nordic Tech Week in Stockholm. And we were on a panel where we talked about creative tech as a Nordic superpower. And you were there, Ronny, because you were sort of speaking on behalf of ODDFest and being a founder of ODDFest. And you're up to some really amazing things. So first and foremost, Ronny, welcome to the talk.
Thank you so much, Sophie. So nice that you have me here, and I can't wait to learn more, talk more, share more, because it's a really, really important segment overall.
It is indeed. So for people who might not know you, I just mentioned that you are the founder of ODDFest. Who are you and what is ODDFest?
Yeah, maybe long story short, I'm from Finland, born and raised just some 20 minutes outside of Helsinki, so the capital. Was born and raised Finnish-Swedish, so I have my roots in the Swedish language and always done school actually in Swedish. We are a minority of around, 4 or 5% of the population. Dates back to the days that Sweden ruled over Finland, and some people back from that history stayed here. And that created this beautiful community we have of really close people to each other, and we share a lot of things. I grew up playing basketball, so I was supposed to be a basketball superstar. That was my dream, and then my career didn't end up being that long, neither my length. So I think it was a lot to that reason that all my fellow players in the youth national team started to be 2 or 3 heads higher than me. So then I decided that I need to do something else with my life. And as an super active, ambitious, energetic young person, startups became the thing I became really interested about, because they had a lot of the same thinking and the same of doing models as sports have. So you're in charge of yourself, you need to lead the thing yourself, and you need to there is no one to tell you what to do. You need to figure it out yourself. So I worked in that segment for many years, both as a founder, as an ecosystem builder and event producer in the startup ecosystem that we have grown up. Then I ended up running a marketing agency where we also helped startups and scale up companies to do their branding and marketing. Then transitioned over to a larger community project. We did something called Ambitious Africa, a big community where we connected Nordic young people with African young people. It grew up to 10,000 members, and we had more than 32 countries in Africa on board. It was a beautiful experience and really opened up to me the understanding how small and tiny a place Finland, for example, is compared with the big countries and big diversities that exist in other places in the world. From there, I started actually to operate as head of Finland for a Swedish venture studio called Ventures. And it was a beautiful experience to see the startup world from the investor's point of view. And then I ran into this startup burnout. I was working both at Ventures, but then also at Hanken, our Swedish-speaking business school in Helsinki, working there, running our operations, but also head of fundraising. So then I had these 2 jobs, and then I was the startup scene is super interesting, but there is something missing for me, and something that I find relatively important. And that something was the calling and this passion I had for creativity and culture. And I was missing a lot of those pieces and those experiences I normally had at my weekends or nights. So getting to be part of creating things and enjoying the things that other people are creating. So then I took a break, continued my work at Hanken, which I still do today, but I started my entrepreneurial journey and my journey within the creative and cultural sector. And first thing, of course, what you do is that you take the whole creative and culture sector and hit it on the table and look what's actually going on here. And is there something my skill set from the startup and business world could be to use here? And pretty quickly, I realized that, yeah, actually a lot of the things that we've done in the startup ecosystem, a lot of the ecosystem development parts, a lot of the business comes into new industries type of thinking was what the creative cultural industries really needed and are still today in the need of. So then we started to look at how was this whole startup ecosystem orchestrated and created here in Finland. And if you look at the story of Slush, it was started in 2008. At that time, we had around 500 million in revenue coming from startup companies. So then there was like Slush created, which became one of the best and coolest startup events in the world. It was followed with some hackathons, with some startup hubs, with different type of things, entrepreneurship societies, universities. And through a span of then 10, 15 years, all of these developments created an ecosystem in Finland that is world recognized today, but also creates 14 billion in revenue. So it's grown a lot from the 500 million it started with. And there was a clear like ecosystem orchestration process. And our vision then became that, hey, could we actually replicate this process, not of course copy paste the same activities, but the process for the creative and cultural industries to create these same like means, models, support for the creative and cultural industries, doers, players, institutions to grow, to reach better the world, to actually get a bang for the buck for their value that they create. And ODDFest became our version of Slush. So of course it's really different. It's not the same. It's not investors and startups meeting, but it has the same heart and it has the same like idea of becoming a movement and becoming massively visible and getting a lot of people to meet. And yeah, now I'm on that road in trying to like figure out how we make ODDFest work. Getting to learn better and better the creative and cultural industries and all the doers within it. And lastly, thinking about the other ecosystem pieces we really need. So everything from like creating spaces where people can work together to creating different type of programs that will actually accelerate the growth. So yeah, I would say that's probably me in a nutshell and why I'm here where I am today.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And for listeners and also for people who are joining us live, because we're actually recording this as a live stream, even though this will be turned into a replay and a podcast afterwards. The reason why I really wanted Ronny to come on board was because we hear a lot we're missing solutions. There is nobody out there doing this. But in fact, there are people who are leading change, that are breaking new grounds. And I feel it's important to shine a light on those kinds of initiatives. And what I really, really love about what you are building, Ronny, together with your partners and the people you're working together with, is that it seems to me as if you have music, arts, and culture at the core of what you're doing. And that's the same with us at Arts Dynamics. Arts Dynamics, we come from, the artist's way into tech, into business, into cross-innovation and collaboration, culture-driven, urban development, whatever it might be. But it is always with the heart and soul of the artist. And from what I'm seeing, from what you've built from the beginning, since we got to know each other and to where you are today, it seems to me as if that is very deeply integrated in your festival. And it's incredible to see also the support that you're rallying around this with the partners that are now coming on board, with the festival you're planning for the summer. So would you mind speaking a little bit to that? Because it's one thing to have a vision and to have an idea, but how did you go about to actually launch this festival to begin with? How did you get the word out there, and how did you get people to be excited about joining?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for those who don't know ODDFest, maybe first just a couple of words about it. So ODDFest is a new type of city festival concept we are building here in the heart of Helsinki, just by the railway station, with our most central location being something we call the Lasipalatsi Kortteli, so the Glass Palace Square. It's a beautiful urban creative oasis with an art gallery beyond the surface, underground. And then on top of it, you have movie theaters, you have restaurants, you have Moomin, different fashion brands. So really interesting, like oasis for creative and cultural people, but also for citizens. I think it's a great miniature version of like Helsinki in one place with all of its like strength and power. And ODDFest as a format, it's like today a week-long format with on the top level a creative week, which means it's side event formatting, trying to brand that week as the one week when you should come and visit Helsinki to experience all of its creative and cultural gems and activities in one place at one time. And the goal is to activate as many of partner organizations to do their own events, side events, summer events during that week. And already this year, there is a lot of interesting things happening, such as the Song and Music Festival, which is a choir festival by the Finnish-Swedish community, free and open, happening at the same time. There is beautiful, beautiful samba carnival, so samba dancing. They do it big time throughout the city. There is the Helsinki Day, which is Helsinki's birthday, with tons of events happening all over the place. And then, of course, ODDFest. And ODDFest formatting, in addition to the Creative Week, is that we have two concepts. We have the Oddference, which is creative and cultural, like business conference. So creative and cultural people creating and teaching business people what actually the value is of creativity. So you could think it of what can corporate events learn from club culture? What can cities learn from game design? What can you learn from play as a method of solving, for example, bigger problems and issues? And here we're not putting the creative and cultural people as entertainment on the stage, but actually as the professionals, as the teachers, as the ones who can really lead companies also in the future, because that's something we don't really see or know to look for, and there is so much power in that. And then lastly, we have ODDFest, which is a multi-creative, multi-venue like festival concept. So we have some of the most beautiful venues in the city center of Helsinki, 5 minutes from each other, such as Tavastia, a really famous like rock club. We have the Glass Palace Square and its buildings. We have a new modern church called the Kamppi Chapel. And then we have an old student union house, which is also a beautiful part of the infrastructure. And in these will unfold program, both in entertaining and industry formatting, everything from music to art to dance to movies to discussions to startup showcases. It's the whole world of different interesting creative and cultural things. And then the question, how did we end up doing something like this, and where did we start from? I think it all started from kind of like the realization of like that we're missing this type of like ecosystem around the creative and cultural sector, all the beautiful things that exist in the startup ecosystem. We have a bunch of them in the creative and cultural side, but not so systematic and not so much focusing on actually the creative economy. So how do you really turn your know-how and skill sets into business, and how do you teach businesses what the value of those skill sets are? So it shouldn't be so as it is now, that businesses buy creativity by deciding what they want, but actually letting the creative and cultural people do their thing, because that thing clearly works, and learning the businesses, teaching the businesses how you can utilize that value without having to change it, so that you don't end up in this problematization of like, we don't want to work with businesses because they require us to change how we are. That shouldn't be the way. It should be the other way around. We'll do the things as we do it because that's the way they work, and the businesses need to learn to work with us. So I think that was the big realization. And then the other realization is that, well, we're going through really hard times in creativity and culture in Finland. There is funding cuts. There is a lot of challenges. People are not able to make a living with their work. And it's not like that we would lack talent or we would lack like creative power, so people wouldn't be more creative or less creative in Finland than they're in other places in the world. That's not the issue. The issue is like missing understanding, missing resources, missing tools, missing models to work. So we turned that all into some type of like story, mission statement, vision statement. And when you work towards something like greater and bigger than yourself, that people can really feel and resonate, people start to be like excited to be a part of it. And I think that's what we like managed to do really well. We drew up a future that we would like to see. We put the future on paper, made it look beautiful and nice. And I learned from the startup ecosystem like this: fake it till you make it, and make things look bigger than they actually are. Because that kind of like creates an excitement, like someone is trying to do something impossible. I want to follow either to see them succeed or see them get destroyed. Both stories are super interesting and interesting to be part of. So I think we created that people are following us. I want to be part. either to see it like fly really beautifully, or then to see it come crashing down. But they are there to follow and try to support to, of course, make it work, but also really skeptically following, will it actually work? So I think we succeeded in doing that really well. And then we also been able to pick and choose pretty nice people, talent. We've been really open in our working model methods. So I think there is some sort of like excitement, some like electricity you can feel, something is going on here, but we're not really sure yet what that is.
I think you're putting it together very beautifully, and thank you for explaining. You're absolutely correct with the startup system and the way they are building hype and buzz around their visions and their ideas. And I've seen that from your marketing material as well, everything from your beautiful website to anything that you're putting out with promotional value, just packaged really nicely. I'm really impressed by that. How do you do that? And by the way, also for our listeners, this is like a real conversation. We don't want to do like just a surface level conversation here today. It's like, I want to know how Ronny does it and the team over there, so that we can also be inspired by it, and not only, maybe implement in our own lives, our own festivals and our own businesses, but also hopefully maybe even partner up with ODDFest in fun ways moving forward. So I lost the train of thought. So what was I going to ask? Yes, I was going to ask you about the marketing side. Did you bring people on to help you with that, or have you done it all yourself, or how do you package it so beautifully, my friend?
Yeah, I think like everything that comes out from ODDFest is like in the end really little me. And I have a really simple role and job. What I do, my job is to be like the mobility DJ, you could call me. So my like job is to make people move. And move towards some direction that makes sense, and some direction that we find like unified. But then like everything that you see, every part of ODDFest, either it's the program or our marketing or whatever, that's done by people a lot better, a lot more structured, a lot more skillful than I am. I'm super lucky that I have a team around me of people who really know their thing and who can really like together make like what was my dream has become now our dream, and I kind of like everyone is like really dedicated to make the dream happen. So everything you see in communications, that's all thank you to Laura Fuentes and Karolina Pärnänen, who are like running that show and doing it beautifully and magnificently. I couldn't ever do it myself the way they do it. They're able to translate my fuzzy thinking into something that actually makes sense, and they understand the scene and they understand the people a lot better than I ever could. So it's all a huge thank you to them. Then when you start to look at our programming or our operational leadership, we have Ukko-Pekka Itäpelto there. We have Aki Pöntinen there, who are like running that show. And then on the sales and production side, we have Max Beekholm and Kirsi Schmeikka, who are running that show as well. So everything is like made out of people. There is many others creators. We have Jonas Verveyen and many other really famous people from the Finnish scene who really know how to create their things. Oh, it's really dangerous when I do the name dropping. I'll forget someone. So sorry if I forgot someone. But it's all about these people, and it's these people like trusting me enough and trusting the vision enough that they're able to pour their heart and soul into it. So how we do it is that I'm able to shake things up and make people a bit like excited and interested, but then it's better talent than me doing all the things. And that's, I think, how things actually start to happen and start to evolve. And getting that like guts, I think that's one of the hardest things, is that are you brave enough to let other people take care of your baby? And it's like, that's not something we normally don't do. We can trust other people with our baby in their hands. But if we can't, then we will be stuck in like the baby will become really limited because it doesn't get access to other things, other people. And also you will burn out really fast if you're the only one having to take care of it. That's why we normally have 2 parents and some grandparents and some friends, these type of things around. So you can sustainably and with good energy, like help that baby grow up. So.
Yeah. So it comes down to people by the sound of it, and leveraging that power that comes from people working together. You are united when you have a common vision or a vision that you share. But then, as you said, you invite people to come in, and you allow for them to also step into their full power and to deliver their expertise by the sound of it. Again, from what we're seeing so far, Ronny, as well done. We know there are a lot of festivals or initiatives happening within the cultural and creative industries, but not many take off, or they are struggling to get that. How can I say? You mentioned the electricity and the combination of the startup energy that you have, but also honoring the traditional. To honor arts and culture from the core, in a sense, if that makes sense. I think this is very, very useful. I know I've been struggling myself with pitch decks. It's not my forte. I'm also bringing more people on now. It's great. It is great. I can highly recommend it. We actually have someone here live on the call, one of our members, Roland Williams, who also talks about the power of a village. It takes a village to get things done. And Roland says, this is fantastic, such a great initiative. Brilliant to hear Sofie Marin and Ronny Eriksson unpacking the creative economy here on this channel. Wonderful for not only our members of Arts Dynamics, let's see what he says, but also the rest of the world. So thank you so much for that, Roland. Really appreciate that. And this is actually a great example, Ronny. Roland is one of our members, and he came up with the idea that he wanted some support to distribute his artwork. He's also a musician. On the back of that, we built a spatial art gallery. On the back of that, we built a web shop and a crowdfunding campaign to show how you can turn that into money and to revenue streams for you as an artist. And also, we suddenly turned into a creative arts gallery, a spatial one too, facilitating that art. And now we're hosting bigger events and things are growing. We are talking about things like we're talking about today. I think it's just amazing what happens when you unleash that creativity. So on that note, Ronny, speaking of this upcoming festival for this year, what has been some of the biggest learnings so far, and what have been some of the challenges that you have faced leading up to where you are today?
That's a great but really broad question. I think the fact is that we learn every day, learn to navigate this world, because it's a lot different from the startup world that I come from. But we also, I think what we have learned a lot is there is a lot of things to do, and a lot of you can actually change a lot of people's mindsets by leading with example and just doing things and being really open-minded. I think the more I learn to trust and let other people do their thing without being too much there to push or try to take an agenda, but let the agenda be formed by a group of people working towards a direction, the more things start to happen with speed and with momentum. Of course, what we learn and see all the time is how challenging the times are, and how stuck people are because of this fear and the doubt and the uncertainty that is living right now. It's causing a lot of issues, but also it opens up a lot of opportunities, because people start to wake up and realize that we need some change and we need some new methods, and we and I need to change. And that gives a perfect opportunity for us to do what we do, because people start to be open to the new ways of doing, because the old ways are disappearing, and you start to see it more and more all the time. Of course, we're fighting with the exactly same fights, and they have the exactly same challenges as every organization probably. And we're 1 year old, we are completely new kids on the block. We're playing a game we don't really know the rules of. I don't know, will we ever? But we're learning. We're learning how to talk. We're learning how to communicate. We're learning which things are more important than others. Learning costs a lot of money and time, and the only thing we don't have right now is money and time. So I think we're living with that challenge in trying to learn how to operate in the darkness, while also being on a timeline to find the way to operate there in the darkness, so we don't die out. And it's hard times otherwise. Marketing budgets for companies are not as high as they've been to. Companies are also looking and following really strictly what is going on in the market. First there was a pandemic, and then there is a war, and after the war there comes another war, and oil prices are surging, and there's so much uncertainty in the market, and you can see that in decision-making power in companies as well. Everyone is a bit looking, being more careful. And for an organization like us, there are not that many streams of income we can create for ourselves. A festival which is the first like model that we've been doing. You can have partners and sponsors, you can sell tickets, and you can get maybe some grants and funding. And our success lies a lot on those three, coming like in three equal parts. And this year we've been really struggling with the business side of things, mostly because it's the same issue that lives in the creative and cultural sector. Businesses don't really yet know how to operate and work and gain value from this animal. There is this old model, which is like, oh, we want to get tons of visibility. Well, a small new festival with maybe 5,000 participants this year, we can't like provide you with 100,000 people like seeing the thing. So then it comes back, well, what is the other value? And that's what we keep on learning right now. That's one of the main learnings. How do we create to companies value that is kind of like sought out or brought up from the creative and cultural sector? What is the value that that sector creates without it being pairs of eyes or visibility? Because there are so many other things it can do. But as the companies don't know, the industry really doesn't know. So then it's impossible for us either to know. So the learning is costly. And especially with like low resources, it's we don't have really the time to do the learning as much as we should. So it's kind of like a fight of survival all the time, but at the same time, it's like a really exciting like learning journey. So I would say like it's we survive all the time, barely, but then we also learn a lot. So if we survive just long enough and keep learning like this, in a couple of years, we'll be unstoppable. But now the question is, will we make it there 2 years onward? Because it's 3-4 years for a festival until you either die out or you find your like positioning. And we're in the look for that, like for finding our product market fit, I would say maybe is the startup term for it.
Yeah. And what is the business vehicle that you've chosen for this organization? Is it a for-profit or is it non-profit or what is it?
For now, we are a non-profit, mostly because we are doing still a societal thing. And due to that, we can also get grants and other type of support, which, well, is well needed. In the future, what format we will take, I'm not sure. Many festivals in Finland have started as non-profit, turned into companies. Some have started as non-profit, and there has become some type of like, it has had to turn into a company, but there has become a foundation or something owning it on the top. But for now, we operate as a non-profit. We progress slowly but surely with that model. And time will tell and show us where we will end up with that. But for now, it works perfectly, and it's also really good for our like values and agenda, and keeps us like everything we do goes back to the organization. 70% of all our income we make or revenue we generate goes back to the creative and cultural sector. So we're trying to really keep strongly a touch on that we're trying to funnel the money where it's needed instead of our like own pockets, and the non-profit structure helps in that a lot.
Yeah, and I bet you already have a lot of learnings regarding the value of what it is that's being created here. So please share some of the insights or learnings that you've made so far, maybe creators that share that this is the value for us, whether it is artistic or financial or anything else. And also please do the same for businesses working with creators, because I feel that it's important, just like you said, to actually share what is the value that we're seeing, what is the value that they are experiencing, and also sharing with you that they are having on the back of working together with you. So value for artists and creators and value for businesses so far, what you've picked up.
Yeah, that's also a great question. And I think I'll start from like the whole word odd, and what the odd like word stands for, where it comes from. So back in the days when I started the whole thing, my idea was that I wanted to call it like What's Next Festival, because I thought that the creative and cultural sector could really well show what is going on in the world and what is going to happen in the world. It has like this, you can imagine futures that you normally can't see. But then Bill Gates came up with a Netflix documentary the same fall called What's Next. So then I thought that, okay, if Bill Gates goes that direction, I need to take another direction. So we pivoted. And then I found this word like outo, which is like odd in Finnish. And I thought it like resonated. It felt really like me, but it also felt like most of the creative and cultural things that I really remember still today, they have been a bit odd. And then I found this really interesting Business Finland, which is one of our huge governmental development organizations doing a lot of like startup investments, project investments, creative and cultural industries projects, funneling governmental also taxpayer money into like really interesting things that like can grow and can create value. They had this beautiful notion of Nordic oddity, and that was one of their most successful like concepts of taking Nordic creative and design things out to the world. So and that really resonated with me because like when you start to think about the word odd and what odd represents, it's like this liminal space that exists in between things that feels a bit like it can be odd and scary, like that person seems really odd and you might be a bit frightened or scared about it. Or then it can be like odd, that was really odd and it really like woke up some feelings in me that I didn't know I had before. But normally it's a place that is like uncomfortable, a bit scary, a bit like different to be within. And then if you look at these two worlds, so now if you go to the learnings and what each other can learn from each other, you have like the arts and creative sector here on one side, it's one bubble. And then you have the business world on the other one, which is its own bubble. And traditionally, those two work with a couple of key principles. So the key principle for business is, of course, like following market like dynamics. So you want to serve a market so that you can create value, so that you can pay your shareholders and like do business. And they're following whatever the market trends and market like realistics are. Then on the other side, you have art. And art follows, again, more like values and identity, and it has this certain urge of freedom. So if art would be purely business, there is this question, is it actually then art? Is it value aligned? Is it identity aligned? And when you put these two like worlds side by side, they are really far from each other. They have a hard time coexisting. So then what we did was that we took these two balls and then we took them closer together, and then you start to see this form, which pretty much like becomes the word odd, which is also pretty fun. And there is like this space in between that is created when you put the balls in between, this like interesting oval space. And I think that oval space became for us like the odd space and the odd like place to be. What happens when in what space could these two organizations find value, understand each other, learn from each other? And that became like the odd like environment we tried to create, a place which is uncomfortable, not so fun, a bit scary, also exciting for both of these parties. And when we started to bring these two closer together, then you start to see and you start to understand, like, I think everything starts from understanding what problems and struggles each side has. And really concretely, really simplistically put, you could say that art sector struggles a lot with the monetary side of things. So not enough money for the work you do. You don't really know how to turn your work without exploiting it into value. You don't really know how to make money with your work. So then you need to do a lot of other things to just get bread on the table. And you're not able to do your craft and your art with full heart and power. On business side, again, like the companies are losing on cultural relevance. They're not that relevant anymore. People don't really understand what's going on. People have hard time resonating with many of our big companies. That's exactly the opposite of what art does. Everyone like pretty much like can resonate with some sort and form of art. You'll do that without you can pay to do it on your free time. You would never pay to go to work on your free time. It's the other way around is to go. So then, but businesses, they make money. They have money. So then you get kind of like these super concrete two problems. The other one makes money, the other one doesn't have money. The other one needs like cultural relevance and to touch feelings and touch experiences and make like people want to be part of something, but they don't know how to do it. So there you have already like a really concrete, like a trade-off where each one could create value to each other if they would just learn to do that. And what that means, and I think we need to go to really concrete examples of how those things are being done. And it's like every company does events, but those events are not like something that most people are super excited about. It's not like, yay, uh, uh, McKinsey is doing like some type of event. I can't wait to go there. But then your favorite club in town is doing a techno rave, and you're like super excited about that techno rave for many weeks. So then the question becomes, what are they doing right at these techno raves that McKinsey don't know how to do yet? And how could what could you learn from the way of the community, the way of curation, the way of creation of that techno event that you could utilize in the McKinsey event perspective in some way? And that value and that know-how is super valuable. And McKinsey would be super valuable to create that same type of notion. So these type of examples we see a lot now happening. There's a lot of like this, and it's all happens again in the odd space. So how do you make these two like meet in the middle? And there is probably thousands, if not millions, of these type of examples, but they are all a bit invisible. They've never been looked at from this point of view as much, maybe, as they are in need to be looked at right now. So our job is a lot in trying to figure those things out and trying to find things, creative acts, creative productions, creative people who are hiding somewhere, maybe in the underground scenes somewhere. They have nothing against like selling their know-how or offering that know-how to someone who is willing to pay, but they just are too far from each other, from the business world and this, so that they could ever even find each other by mistake. So I think it's a bit of detective work on both sides, and then it's about connecting these two different sides to each other.
Yeah, and creating the meeting space for both of them to meet, as you said. Maybe also having the systems and the processes in place, the methodology to also track and measure the impact that you're creating. So would you speak to that a little bit? Or do you have you already developed, or are you developing methods or methodologies for how they can cross collaborate and cross innovate and learn from one another? And if you haven't, have you thought about it?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the big work that we're doing. So if you take one like step back from ODDFest and you don't look solely at the event, but you look what we do with the Odd brand as a whole, or our nonprofit in the background, New Nordic Way, that we call it. Our job is pretty simple, simply put on paper. Our like vision and mission is to build the enabling infrastructure for the creative and cultural industries so they could flourish. That's like the simplest way you can put it. And with infrastructure, we mean three really simple things: events, spaces, and programs. And why that trifold of things is because events are in themselves a mini ecosystem. So an event, it caters for simple need. It caters for visibility, uniting people, inspiring people, and like just like getting people to meet, be excited, want to do something. But then an event ends as fast as it starts. It's normally 2 days and then it's poof, gone. Might be a week, poof, gone. Then the question is like, what happens then? So then you need spaces, because spaces create continuity. You can like continue with the thing that you have started, because then these two people met. The two people can meet again at the space and they can start working together at whatever agenda they have at that space, because they have not a one-off meeting point, but actually a continuous meeting point. And what continuity creates, it creates community. So you have also a bunch of people who start to spend more time at that space working together. Then the third thing that comes up is that, okay, now these two people are working together, but their thing is not really flying because they're missing A, B, or C, like skill sets, know-how, access, support, financing, whatever that is. That's kind of like when their programming comes in. So how do you upskill the people who have now found each other to get the means and the resources so they can fly? And in startup terms, we talk about accelerators and incubators and different type of like matchmaking programs. And the whole point of those is just to like give the extra support to the people who already are working together so that their thing is more likely to succeed. So the infrastructure we have seen being generated here in Finland in the startup ecosystem, it's those three things repeated throughout the year in many different formats, in many different places. And then the more they have been repeated, the wider their spread has become. And now it's the world coming here to want to tap into that like circularity of life. And I would say like that's the method and that's our principle to doing it, like dumbing it down to be that simple. Because then there is a lot, again, smarter people than me, a lot smarter people than us that can run the programs, that can do other events, that can be operating these spaces. Our job is to see that there is just a strong enough like start to each of the things that they will start happening. But then there are specialists in all of these different parts who can do them, who can execute them. And my dream would be that maybe ODDFest flies, maybe it doesn't, maybe our new co-working hub in Vallila here in Helsinki for creative and cultural industry, a creative hub we're creating, maybe that flies, maybe it doesn't. Maybe our accelerator program we're kickstarting flies, maybe it doesn't. But as long as it creates that excitement and ignition that those people who can make it fly will definitely make it and make it happen and make it fly. So the result of our work doesn't need to be us succeeding, but it needs to be that the movement and the change of mindset really happens, because that's when you start to really see a change, when it's not a couple of people trying to push the like agenda onwards, but it actually becomes everyone who wants to push and make sure it works. So I would say that's our methodology, that's our like process. Then of course we have interest in like nailing it down and going more to the nitty gritty. How can we do it better? But right now I think we need like just big strokes.
Yeah. And you mentioned before also the uncertain times that we're finding ourselves in. It sounds as if there are delays also with companies maybe, funding you, or we see the same in Sweden. I had the same from Norway and the Nordics and in Europe, I think in general right now, that it takes longer for companies to make a decision to throw money at something. They don't just sponsor events like they have in the past. Even sponsorship as a term is no longer used as much as it used to be. And being Finland, what do you see for your country and you as an advocate for the cross innovation and collaboration between the arts scene on the one hand and public sector on the other hand and business sector on the third hand? How does that fit into the Finnish ecosystem right now? And what is the value from that standpoint? Does that make sense when I say that? Also from a military point of view, or defense, or to build that resilience as a country. How do you fit into that? We have conversations about that right now in Sweden and in other countries, and you also being geographically positioned where you are. I'm just curious to see, how are you thinking about these things based on where you are at today?
Yeah. Well, maybe just starting from like, there's a lot of reports and strategy work being done from the like higher levels and the governmental levels here in Finland, also city levels. Everyone aligns on the same vision that creativity and culture and the creative and cultural industries are in a certain like focus point right now. We're lagging like badly behind many of our neighboring countries, Sweden being one of those, Copenhagen or Denmark being another, whole England doing a lot more and has been historically doing a lot more. So we have a pretty like in-depth strategy in both growing like on the economic perspectives, but then also on the societal perspectives in this like segment. Back in the days, the Finnish like whole identity has been built throughout creativity and culture through literature. We had Elias Lönnrot back in the days, who is one of our national figures on the like identifying the Finnish like brand and our story. Then later on we had like our ex-president Kekkonen taking out a lot of like Artec and Aalto and these type of like brands to the world, always with him. That was his way to show that this is what Finland and our waves and our archipelago and our design really stands for, and make you feel like this is how Finland looks through the like world of creativity. Because creativity and culture, it's a great language for people to understand the situation, the time, the sense, the feelings of a country without having to use a single word. So even though everyone said Finnish is one of the hardest languages to learn, yes, but we can speak also in many other languages like design, like in song, like in feeling. And I think those are the things that we really need and really are missing today also, is like we have a really strong like patriotism, really strong like national identity in Finland. I think we have one of the largest like militaries in the world, which are like in reserve. A lot of people would really stand up for this country if it came down to that. But that's because we have a pretty strong like culture, and we really like love the society we have. But we're not that good at telling it outside. We're really good at telling it inside, where that's where we really shine. It's like making everyone here locally love it and want to support it. And everyone has some Marimekko stuff and some Fiskars scissors and so on, like at their home. Like you don't find pretty much a single home without any of those. But then when it's about telling that to the world and making the world really proud of things, that's where we are struggling a lot. We are a bit inward turned like a society, really protective of our own and what is ours. But I think really few people really know that Angry Birds is from Finland, Nokia was from Finland, Marimekko is from Finland, many other beautiful things like now just growing up and happening are from Finland. We're not making a buzz about it that much. And of course, that leaves us a bit alone maybe with things. And it like, so I think like now we are waking up towards the realization of that. Also that technology alone is not enough. It's technology married to the liberal arts, married to the humanities that create the stories that make our hearts sing. That's a quote from Steve Jobs, but something I really strongly agree with. So I think like we're waking up to that realization that we won't be able to push or punch above our weight if we're not like bringing those different things together, because there are stories and there are doers and there are colors and there are cleanliness and sustainability, all of these things that really live strongly here. But we need to make the world know about it as well.
Yeah, it sounds as if we're talking about cultural diplomacy or soft power, which is often, especially when governments are traveling or trade missions, when they go abroad, they like to often talk about arts and culture as one of the great things from their country. But at the same time, it's also about the funding, as you said, and the financial support. It's one thing to maybe know that there are, great values to be had from the creative and cultural industries, but it's on the other hand, where is the money coming from? Who is going to fund this? And I wonder, from all your experience, also moving from these different worlds, where do you see the money coming from? Who has the money, or how do we create the money ourselves operating in this ecosystem? From your perspective, what are you picking up on?
Yeah, well, in Finland, we're really used to foundations, the government, these type of things like paying for creativity. I understand where it comes from also and why we should see a lot of value in that, and it should be like taxpayer money used to it, because if we don't have creativity and culture, what is there left to protect, really? Like that's like, I think that's the core of this. Like we also asked about the like wars and dangers and like hurdles we have in life on defense side. So I think creativity culture is like, it makes us have something that is worth to protect. And of course, like Finland as a society wants to or should be funding partially at least the work that we like, there is worth a while to protect. But then on the other side, it's like what we have a bit issues with in Finland is that we think it's the government's job. But then if you think about like democratic place like Finland starts to be like also what was like wellness, hyvinvointivaltio in Finnish, no, wellness society, whatever the correct word for that is, well-being societies, so, or what the word is. So then I think like it's made out of its people. And if the people make or think that it's the government's job to pay for all the creativity and culture and all of those things, the notion goes wrong, because then you're pushing the agenda to one entity's like shoulders to carry. And I think like we should both like as individuals, but also importantly as companies, see the value in that. What are those type of things that we really spend our free time, our employees spend our free time, our friends spend our free time in using, consuming? What does make them proud of staying here in Finland, working here in Finland, wanting to spend their vacations here in Finland? Those are the things that like companies should also be paying for. We as individuals should be willing to pay for. We should be willing to go to the movies and pay money for the movie. We should be willing as companies to go to festivals and support those festivals to happen. Because in the end, those are the places where you really make people come together and you make people really want to be together. And those type of environments, we don't see that much. Like we don't have these work villages anymore, so it doesn't feel like you're part of that workplace. It's more in Finland, I think, on many places probably in the world, it feels like you do work so that you can live life. But if culture and creativity would be more integrated in the work culture, in this villages created around the companies, then maybe it could be so that there is not like you don't have to work to live, but you can actually work can be part of your life, and it can feel culturally important. It can feel creative. It can feel that because you do this work, the favorite things in your free time are actually being allowed and can grow and can prosper. So I think there we have a big issue in that there is this division of like work and life, and it's everything is life. You can't like then work just happens to be a part of that life, and then you can make your work, or your employees can make your work, and the companies and the government can they make the work feel as because of that work we also have a richer life. And there I think we have some work to do, but if that's solved, I think we see a lot of more like diversity art happening, companies also taking steps toward that, and then in the end happier workers and more creative solutions.
For sure. And if anything was possible for yourself, for ODDFest, for everything that you're building, what would be an ideal scenario, let's say in the next few years? What would you like to see happen?
Yeah, well, my first wish, of course, as any entrepreneur, like in this situation, is that I wish I had 1 million on my bank account so we could focus on actually the doing instead of just like the never ending like selling and trying to like push like the envelope to get cash on the bank account. Because if most of our time is used for sales, that means less time to actually create the experience and the environment and the connections that are needed. So if anyone out listening there happens to have an extra 1 million, I could take it. I have a great use to it, and I can promise it's going to be used to great things, not my salary. But if we overlook that like fact that we need like time and focus, which you normally with money can buy, I see like a future where people really buy into the agenda that like what we are doing and creating will have a positive effect on like the society as a whole. Because the more we get the world to be excited about the things here, the more now that here only meeting Finland, I'm also meeting actually the whole Nordics, the more the world gets excited and interested to come here to visit, to see, the more we open up the possibilities for every single one of you to like do your dreams and do your thing, because you're gonna be reaching a lot bigger audiences. And I see like really strongly a world myself where creativity and culture, I believe it's going to grow as a sector a lot. There is some prognosis that they will be growing to 10% of GDP because of AI and technological advancements and all of this. If that's true, it's going to be as large as the energy sector or many other sectors in the world, which is huge. And in that case, there is going to be tons of opportunities. It's going to be everywhere. You can't live your life without it. Well, you can't already now live your life without it. So then there would be the means to an end for anyone who has had that even small urge to unleash their creativity, to unleash it in a like safe, nice, well-supported environment. And that's what I hope to see in a couple of years, that anyone who wants can, and everyone who can will get the help to most likely succeed also in their trying. And that type of environment I see. And then, of course, I hope to see that people would stop looking at creativity and culture as something fun and extra you do in your free time with your extra cash you might have, and more of being just a core part of life, like food or water. You need to also have creativity and culture, because I think that makes life worth living for. And it's really few people who find that wouldn't be every single day consuming some sort of culture without understanding they do it. Is it watching TV or watching social media or reading a book or even walking on the street watching as graffiti on the walls? All of those parts are. And if it all would be taken away, life would become pretty dull. And I think there is a couple of countries in the world who have proved that it's not the way to go.
No, 100%. And I'm picking up on something. You said, I hear this a lot, I will not take the salary myself. We will be reporting to the organization. And I just want to say at the same time, as an ecosystem leader, yourself and also for others who are listening in, I do feel that it is important to also financially sustain ourselves as ecosystem leaders. Because if you are not sustained, then you're not able to then create this amazing movement that you are building. So for anyone here with the billions, or it might not even be that much, it could be lesser or more, I think we shouldn't shy away from also actually supporting the leaders, because when you free that up for yourself, then it will be, as you said, it will be easier to also focus on growing and scaling the organization that you're building, and also tracking and measuring what we talked about, the methodologies, the systems and the processes. Because what you are doing, Ronny, that can be scaled to other countries, to other festivals, to other cross-pollinators out there. I think there are many people now looking for the path forward. Is one thing to come together, but it's like, how do you actually make this into something tangible that can be also replicable? That's one thing that I'm picking up on. And then the second one is, I'm doing these talks to talk to people like yourself, to see what we can also do to help and support. And sometimes I also think that we forget that it can be the easy, little simplistic things that can also help. It can be, and I'm saying this also for our listeners here, it can be to click a like, to do a like or a comment or a share that doesn't cost anything. I think often that is being missed, also how we can support one another. It could even be just sharing this podcast. It could be, show Ronny some love and ODDFest when you are listening to this, and help just spread the word, because who knows who might pick up on the message and what kind of doors it actually might open up. So Ronny, we are sort of getting closer to the end of this talk. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to just share? The stage is yours. Is there anything else where you're like, I just need to get this message across as well? And what would that be?
Well, I would probably say in this time being right now that 8th to 14th of June, the ODDFest is happening in the city center of Helsinki. The easiest way to support us and to be part of the whole journey is to buy a ticket and show up, have greatest week ever here in hopefully sunny Helsinki, when the midnight sun is creeping over us and the summer nights are light and beautiful. So I would say like that's the biggest step and biggest hurdle right now. If people buy tickets, we don't have any issues. If they don't, we'll have a lot. So just make that decision, preferably now than later, because we see that trend happening, that people are buying tickets just before because they're waiting to see how the weather is and whatever. I promise you, we got you covered, even though it would be pouring rain. So don't be afraid of that. And other than that, super thankful to you, Sofie, for like hosting this, having this discussion. It's been a pleasure. And I'm super thankful for people like you, because we need more people lifting up other people, and I can't wait to get to do the same back to you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're already doing it. It's so inspiring to follow your work. And I think for many of us who are operating in the same intersection between creativity, tech, and business, it's just nice to see that we're not alone. And as you said, it's more fun as well when we've got friends and colleagues in the ecosystem to learn from one another, to partner up when we can, to just support in any way, shape, or form possible. So for our Finnish friends, obviously, it's a no-brainer. Get a ticket, go to this ODDFest to find out more about it. This is not the last thing you will hear about ODDFest, I can tell you that for certain. So we'll also make sure to spread the word, obviously, when we're getting closer. And we've noticed the same thing. People tend to sort of book tickets at the very last minute. It didn't used to be like that in the old days, but we live in completely new times. So I think it's also important to adapt to that and to also build our business models so that they are suitable for that. So we need new vehicles for business growth, creative business growth, and innovation. So with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. There is a comment section below this live video, and also if you're listening to the podcast afterwards, would love to know who you are, where you're from, what you're up to, what was your biggest takeaway from this conversation today, and how can we support you? And again, please help just spread the word about what we just talked about as well. I think that will also help to raise awareness of the amazing things that Ronny and his team is up to in Finland. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Ronny, for being here. For more information about Arts Dynamics, go to artsdynamics.com. We've got our own Arts Dynamics Impact Summit coming up on the 19th of March. So we'll address this festival as a beautiful example of what can be achieved when you just join forces to do that. And if anyone else has any questions about who we are, what we do, just reach out afterwards. So with that, I just wish you all an amazing day. Go create some magic. And remember, the future is being created today. And it is also from our imagination that we come up with the ideas and what we want to do for the future. So let's start there and just build a wonderful, fun and creative future together, because we can. Thank you so much. Over and out.
Thank you.